It happened just after midnight, the kind of hour where the house sounds different, where every creak feels louder because the world outside has gone quiet. I remember the clock on the microwave glowing 12:17 a.m. in that dull green light when my stepmother's voice cut through the hallway like a blade. "Get up. Now." I thought something was wrong. A fire? A break-in? I sat up in bed, heart already racing, my feet barely touching the cold floor when she flipped on the light without asking. "You don't live here anymore," she said. I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because my brain refused to accept it. "What are you talking about? It's the middle of the night." She crossed her arms, blocking the doorway like a wall. "Pack what you can carry. Your father and I talked. This is over." "My father?" I said. "You talked to my father?" She smiled then. Not warm, not kind. It was the kind of smile you give when you think you've already won. "He knows you're difficult. He knows you've been a problem since day one." That word, problem, hit harder than I expected. I'd spent years shrinking myself in that house, staying quiet, staying out of the way, telling myself if I didn't take up space, I couldn't be blamed for anything. "I'm not going anywhere tonight," I said, my voice shaking. "This is my home." She laughed, sharp and short. "No, this is my house, and everything in it belongs to me and your father, including the deed." My stomach dropped. "That's not true. My mom—" "She's dead," my stepmother snapped, "and whatever she thought she left you was never legally yours. I made sure of that." I didn't even remember packing. I remember her standing there watching, making comments like she was critiquing my existence. "You don't need that. Leave it. That's not yours." When I tried to grab the small lockbox from my closet, the one with documents, photos, the last letter my mother ever wrote to me, she slapped my hand away. "That stays," she said. "Property of the house." I felt something inside me crack then. Not loud, just a quiet, breaking sound. She walked me to the door barefoot, my shoes dangling from my fingers, the night air biting into my skin. When I turned back, hoping, stupidly, that my father would appear, that he'd tell her to stop, the hallway was empty. The door closed behind me with a soft click. No shouting, no scene, just silence. I stood on the porch for a long time, staring at that door like it might open if I waited long enough. It didn't. I slept in my car that night, curled up in the back seat, using my jacket as a blanket, replaying every moment of the last few years, trying to figure out when my life had quietly stopped belonging to me. The next morning, I went back. Not to beg, not to scream, just to get answers. My stepmother opened the door wearing my father's robe, coffee mug in hand, calm as ever. "You're trespassing," she said. "I'll call the police." "I want my paperwork," I said. "The property documents, the ones my mom left." She took a slow sip of coffee. "There is no property. You should stop embarrassing yourself." Then she leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Your father chose me. Remember that." I walked away shaking, but something didn't sit right. My father had chosen her, but he hadn't looked me in the eye when it happened. He hadn't said a word. 2 days passed, then 3. The 4th night, my phone rang. Dad. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Hi," I said quietly. His voice sounded tired, older somehow. "Where are you?" The question caught me off guard. "You don't know?" There was a pause. A long one. "She told me you left, said you wanted nothing to do with us." My chest tightened. "She threw me out at midnight." Silence again, this time heavier. "She said you were unstable, that you took things that weren't yours." "I took my clothes, that's it. She kept everything else, even Mom's letter." I could hear his breathing then, uneven. Angry, maybe, or scared. I didn't sign anything, he said suddenly. What? The property transfer, he said. I never signed it. My heart started pounding. She said you did. I was out of town, he said. She handled it. I trusted her. That word, trusted, made my hands curl into fists. Dad, I said slowly, she's lying to you. I know, he said, and his voice changed, hardened, and I'm starting to realize how long she's been doing it. The line went quiet for a moment, then he said something that made me sink down onto the curb, my knees giving out beneath me. I'm coming to see you, alone. Why? I asked. Because there are things in that house that never should have been taken from you, and because I think she's been hiding more than just papers. I looked at the dark street around me, my car parked crookedly nearby, my entire life reduced to a few bags and unanswered questions. Dad, I whispered, what are you saying? He didn't answer right away. I'm saying, he finally said, that I don't think I know the woman I married. The call ended there, and as I sat there in the quiet, phone still pressed to my ear, I realized something terrifying and hopeful at the same time. If my father was starting to see the truth, then everything my stepmother had built on lies was about to shake, and I had no idea who of us would be standing when it finally came down. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car with the windows cracked, watching every shadow move across the street, replaying every moment of the last few years, trying to figure out when my life had quietly stopped belonging to me. The morning my phone buzzed again. Dad, I'm at a hotel near the old bridge. Don't tell anyone, especially her. My chest tightened. I typed back, I won't. Then I stared at the screen, wondering how a single night had flipped the balance of my entire life. When I met him later that afternoon, he looked smaller somehow, like the house he lived in had been holding him upright all these years, and without it, gravity was finally doing its job. He hugged me tightly, longer than he had in years, and I felt myself almost break apart in his arms. I should have listened to you, he said quietly, about a lot of things. We sat across from each other in the hotel room, the curtains half drawn. He kept checking his phone like it might explode. She went through my office, he finally said. I found drawers open that I never open, files moved, things missing. My stomach dropped. What kind of things? He hesitated. Your mother's paperwork. The trust documents, the ones that were supposed to be locked away. I swallowed. She told me nothing belonged to me. His jaw tightened. That's not what your mother wanted. I felt heat rush to my face. Then why did she get away with it? Why did she throw me out like I was nothing? He looked down at his hands. Because I let her speak for me. That hurt more than anything she said. Before I could respond, his phone rang. He didn't answer at first, just stared at the name on the screen. Her. She knows I'm not home, he said. She knows something's wrong. The phone stopped ringing. A text came through. Stepmother. Where are you? Then another. Stepmother. We need to talk now. He exhaled slowly. She's never panicked like this. I leaned forward. Dad, what exactly did she take from me? He opened his bag and pulled out a thin folder, edges worn. This, he said, or at least she tried to. I recognized the handwriting immediately. My mother's. My hands shook as I reached for it. Is that? Don't open it yet, he said quickly. Not here, not until I'm sure she hasn't altered anything. The knock at the hotel door made us both freeze. 3 sharp knocks. Not room service, not gentle. Dad stood up slowly. Stay back. My heart slammed against my ribs as he moved toward the door. His phone buzzed again in his hand. Stepmother, I know you're with her. I backed away, the folder clutched against my chest like it might disappear if I loosened my grip. The knocking came again, louder this time, and as my father reached for the door handle, I realized something terrifying. Whatever was in that folder was powerful enough to make her follow us here. And once that door opened, nothing between us would ever be the same. My father didn't open the door right away. He stood there with his hand hovering inches from the handle, like touching it might trigger something irreversible. The knocking stopped, replaced by silence so thick I could hear my own breathing. Then, her voice came through the door. "I know you're in there," she said, calm but tight, like she was holding a scream inside her chest. "You don't have to hide from me." Dad closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, there was something different there. Fear, yes, but also resolve. He cracked the door just enough to speak through it. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "You're my wife," she snapped back. "Where else would I be?" I stayed frozen behind him, my fingers digging into the folder, my pulse hammering in my ears. I could picture her face perfectly without seeing it, the controlled smile, the eyes always calculating. "You lied to me," Dad said quietly. There was a pause, long enough that I wondered if she'd walk away. Instead, her voice softened. "She's turning you against me. She's always been good at that." My stomach twisted. Even now, she was trying to rewrite reality. Dad didn't respond. He opened the door wider. She stood there, immaculate as ever, hair perfect, makeup untouched, like this was just another dinner argument that would end with her winning. Her eyes flicked past him and landed on me. "Oh, so you're here." Her gaze dropped to the folder in my hands. For a split second, the mask slipped. Fear flashed across her face before she recovered. "You gave that to her?" she asked Dad, her voice sharp again. "I didn't, and that's the problem." She laughed, but it sounded brittle. "You're letting her manipulate you with old papers and stories? You know she's always resented me." I stepped forward without meaning to. "I stole from me," I said. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. "You took things my mom left me. You locked me out of my own life." Her eyes narrowed. "That life was never yours. You were a child. You didn't understand what you were given." Dad turned toward her slowly. "Did you forge my signature?" Silence. Too loud, too telling. She looked at him, really looked, like she was recalculating everything in real time. "You're tired. You've been stressed. We'll talk about this at home." "There is no home right now," he replied. Her jaw tightened. "So you're choosing her?" "I'm choosing the truth," he replied. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at it, and her expression changed again, this time to something colder. "You think this ends well," she said softly. "You think one folder fixes everything?" She turned her gaze back to me. "You should have stayed gone." Before either of us could respond, she stepped back into the hallway, already dialing, already moving pieces I couldn't see. Dad shut the door and leaned against it, chest rising and falling fast. "She's calling her lawyer," he said. I swallowed hard. "So should we." He nodded. "We will, but there's more." He reached for the folder. "What's in here isn't just about property, it's about why your mother was so afraid before she died." My breath caught. "Afraid of what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone again, scrolling through messages, his face draining of color. "She just sent this," he said, turning the screen toward me. The message read, "You don't know the whole story about your mother. Ask her what really happened before it's too late." My hands started shaking. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about being thrown out or stolen property or lies. It was about something buried so deep that my stepmother was willing to burn everything to keep it hidden. And once that door opened, nothing between us would ever be the same. I didn't open the folder right away. I don't know why. Maybe some instinct was telling me that once I did, whatever thin layer of denial I still had left would be gone forever. My father sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the carpet like it might confess something if he looked hard enough. "Your mother used to say," he began, then stopped, swallowed. She used to say that if anything ever happened to her, I had to protect you. Not the money, not the house. You. I felt my throat tighten. From who? He looked up at me then, and for the first time, he didn't try to soften his expression. From people who smile while they're taking something from you. A knock came again, lighter this time. Not pounding, not angry. Dad stiffened. I told the front desk not to. The knock came once more, followed by a man's voice. Hotel security? Sir, we need a word. My heart dropped into my stomach. Dad stood, glanced through the peephole, then opened the door just enough. 2 uniformed guards stood there, professional, unreadable. Your wife called, one of them said. She said there's a dispute over personal property and that you may be in possession of documents that don't belong to you. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. She threw me out, I said, stepping forward. She took my things. The guards exchanged a look. Ma'am, we're not here to decide that. We're just asking you to keep things civil. Dad nodded. We will. They left, but the air in the room stayed heavy, like a storm that had only paused. She's escalating. That means she's scared. My phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. Hello? Hang up, my stepmother's voice said calmly on the other end. Right now, or I tell him. Tell him what? I asked, my voice barely steady. There was a smile in her silence. Ask your father what your mother was really doing the year before she died. Dad's face went pale. What did she say? I pulled the phone away from my ear. She says there's something about Mom, something you're not telling me. He stood very still, too still. She was investigating something, he finally said. Something tied to the land your mother insisted be put in your name. My breath hitched. Investigating what? He opened his mouth to answer, and his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered slowly. Hello? A man's voice came through, sharp and professional. Mr. Harris, this is an attorney representing your wife. We need to inform you that any attempt to distribute or access documents related to the estate may constitute a breach of... Dad hung up. Silence crashed down between us. I stared at the folder in my hands, my mother's handwriting pressing against the thin paper like it was alive, like it had been waiting years for me to finally listen. Outside the window, headlights swept across the curtains. A car idled below. She knows where we are, I whispered. Dad nodded once. And she knows time is running out. My fingers slid under the flap of the folder, just enough to feel the edge of the first page. And before I could pull it free, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message that made my blood run cold, from a number labeled simply, Mom's Old Lawyer. If you're reading this, it means she found out. Do not trust anyone, especially family. I looked up at my father, my heart pounding so loud it hurt. Dad, I said, my voice shaking, I think this started long before she ever threw me out. And deep down, I knew whatever truth was buried in that folder wasn't just going to change my relationship with my stepmother. It was going to decide who in my family was willing to destroy everything to keep it hidden. I finally opened the folder. The paper inside was older than I expected, slightly yellowed, my mother's handwriting pressed deep into it, like she'd written with force instead of ink. The first page wasn't legal at all. It was a letter. To me. My hands shook so badly I had to sit down. If you're reading this, it began, it means I'm gone, and it means someone tried to take what I protected for you. My chest caved in. Dad sat beside me, silent, his face already telling me he knew parts of this, but not all of it. My mother wrote about the land, how it wasn't just property, how years ago, before my stepmother ever entered our lives, there had been an attempt to sell it quietly, under my father's name, without consent, how my mother stopped it, how threats followed, legal pressure, smiles that didn't reach eyes. Then the line that made my breath stop completely. If she ever forces you out, It means she believes I'm no longer here to stop her. But the land is yours. Always was, always will be. I felt something inside me snap into place. Not anger, clarity. Dad covered his face with his hands. He told me your mother was paranoid, he said hoarsely, that she imagined enemies everywhere. She wasn't, I whispered. She was preparing. The last pages were legal documents, signed, notarized, ironclad. The land was mine, untouchable. My stepmother had never owned it, could never own it, and any attempt to seize it would expose everything she'd done. My phone rang. Her name. Dad reached for it instinctively, then stopped. Looked at me. I answered. You should have stayed gone, my stepmother said, her voice tight now, the control cracking. This doesn't end the way you think. It already has, I replied quietly. You just didn't know yet. Silence on the line. Then, softer, dangerous, your father will lose everything. I glanced at him. He was already standing, shoulders straight, eyes clear in a way I hadn't seen since I was a child. No, he said loud enough for her to hear through the phone. I already lost something, and I won't lose her, too. The call disconnected. Outside, the car that had been idling finally pulled away. Dad picked up his coat. I'm done running, he said. I'm filing tomorrow. I'll testify if I have to. I leaned my head against his shoulder, the folder pressed to my chest, my mother's voice finally loud enough to drown out the lies. For the first time since midnight, I wasn't afraid of what happened next. Because she had taken my house. She had tried to take my future. But she had underestimated one thing. My mother had already won this war. And now it was my turn to finish it.